Oh, excellent. Now we're recording. Hello, Bill.
Hello, Sandy. How are you?
And welcome, viewers, to Speaking of Seeing. Yet again,
Yes,
hopefully
miss.
someone will watch it this week.
Ah,
Fallout. You and I have, I don't think, really ever properly fallen out. Well, we have been on the edge of it a few times.
we have? Maybe from your side. I guess. What did I do?
I am constantly in a mood with you.
Is that true? Do you really think that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. For the sake of argument, let's go along with it.
Well, I'm obviously leading with Fallout in context of argument.
Sure.
Have you ever really fallen out with someone?
Yes, multiple people. Sometimes, actually, almost always in a way that I don't quite understand.
Isn't it funny that there's not
Yeah.
sometimes like a seismic event that alters the trajectory of friendship? It could just be
All of
some.
a sudden, somebody just stops talking to you in that way, and you're like, "What happened?"
This has happened to me, I have to
Right.
say. I've been thinking a lot about friendship recently because I have had an experience with a very, very close friend from childhood who I guess would say they're not good at keeping in touch, but where I have felt that I've essentially been ghosted for many years. And I've been very hurt and confused by that. And recently, that person has, even if it's fleetingly, returned to my life. And it sparks a kind of little, it's like a little extra heartbeat of joy. But I'm cautious. And it's made me think about the mechanics of not just relationship, but specifically falling out. And also something that, and I don't know who does actually watch these things that we record, so maybe someone will watch this and it's someone I'm actually speaking about. But I have had a friend for many years who actually changed my life and who I simply realised the other day I could no longer be friends with.
Well, that's sad.
It was sad.
Was it sad? Because I sometimes I think it might not be sad, but in this case it was.
It is sad. And he left to return to Iceland, and I I had just the portcullis had completely come down, and that is not normally how I am at all. But I had become so fatigued, I think, by a weight of expectation of friendship with somebody that perhaps didn't meet me in friendship the way I needed, and who I didn't feel I could reach with my friendship any longer. It's a very strange experience generally, but anyway,
Do you think
fallout.
do you think it's do you think there's a difference in falling out as an adult versus falling out when you're adolescent, teen, 20s, that kind of thing?
Well, what I've noticed is my fallings out now are this more nebulous thing. Whereas my fallings out when I was a teenager were because, that person kissed that boy that I
Right,
liked,
right, right,
or,
right. Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
that kind of thing. There was always some kind of drama, a specific drama or event that attached
That
itself to
blew it up.
falling
Yeah,
out. And I've had turbulent friendships, I'm sure you have as well,
sure.
but that also have kind of sustained themselves without ever really completely breaking away. But I've just found recently that this adulthood stuff and friendship is quite tricky.
Hmm.
And yet, like you, I have good friendships, deep friendships, and they hurt.
Well, anything that gets that deep is going to potentially have the ability to hurt you.
Well, tell me, Bill, in your fallings out, have you ever realised that you have been to blame?
Um, I have, I have, I can imagine that other people would think that my actions I could see my actions offending someone, but that was not my intention. You know, there's those situations.
Well, frankly, I get pissed off by you all the time, but
Exactly.
we
That's what I'm
weather
talking
that
about.
storm.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've talked,
Say again?
we've talked before about rivalries in art.
Sure.
The big hitters would be Van Gogh and Gauguin, or Picasso and Matisse.
Sure.
Um, but this evening I wanted us to
Pollock
talk.
and de Kooning.
Well, yes. Do you know this?
Yes, this is Degas. No, it's Manet painting of Degas or something.
No, other way
I had it
round.
the other way around. Okay,
Yeah,
so it's Degas painting of Manet, and yeah, okay, yes, I
fine.
know this
So
painting.
this is a
This was
painting.
at the show in New York last year
Oh, was it?
or 2 years ago. Yeah.
I'm interested in that because this is a painting gifted to Manet by Degas.
Yep.
And they had a very intense frenemy style relationship. And
Yeah.
it's a painting of Manet with his wife Suzanne. And you can tell from this blank space where you and I currently are in our little boxes that something has happened to this painting.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about it?
I know that Degas cut it, I think.
Manet cut it.
uh, or Manet cut it. The wife is playing piano or something in the part that's cut. There's I forget exactly what it was. This was actually in like the first room of that big show.
Well, I think that this is the kind of painting. It's really interesting that you've actually seen it in the flesh, so to speak, and that you remember it because I suspect that in a retrospective of either Manet or Degas, or I think there was an exhibition that you probably saw that was about both.
It was, yeah, and it was huge.
Yeah, I suspect this is the kind of thing that maybe doesn't get the attention compared to something like, let's say, The Dancers by Degas or
Sure.
Olympia by
Olympia, sure.
Manet,
Yep.
blah, blah, blah. But actually, this painting is like the pivotal, I would say, one of the pivotal moments of Western, certainly French, art history from really the canon of art history. This is like a pivotal painting because actually what it did was it sealed a kind of rivalry and a competitiveness that was already bubbling and brewing. These two artists, so Degas, the person who has painted this, and Manet, the artist who is depicted within it with his wife, are kind of titans of Western art from the 19th century. And they met by accident, actually. Manet was a couple of years older than Degas, and they happened completely by accident to meet each other at the Louvre. Degas was studying, looking at a painting. I think it was Velázquez, the Margarita, the painting of the,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
you know what I'm saying.
Of the
He was,
princess lady. Yep.
it was basically drawing on copper plate. Not drawing a preparatory sketch, going straight to the copper plate. Degas was fastidious. He was an avid scholar of classical art. Anyway, Manet happened upon him and they started talking and they struck up a friendship. And over the course of their friendship, they were rivals. They had very differing views about many things. Manet, for example, kind of like a liberal avant-garde dandy. He was very, very extroverted, a socializer, wanted to be the centre of attention, loved courting scandal. Degas was an introvert. He was quite withdrawn. He was very private, secretive. But the two of them had this enormous respect for each other and their talent as artists. The reason why this painting is so important is because it shows how their relationship would flare into these kind of cataclysmic actions, such as one artist slashing the gifted painting of the other,
Sure.
and that they perhaps in their opposition and in that tension would make truly fantastic work. Now,
Sometimes that happens.
sometimes that happens. I mean, there's lots of other things that spurred them on, each of them, I don't think particularly likable or nice men. Likeable's the wrong word because Manet, by all accounts, was extraordinarily charming. Um, but it seems to me that they were almost necessary to each other. We can look at them in isolation because we're looking from now to what feels like quite a distant past. But really, I think when you study both these artists, you appreciate the impact each has had on the other.
Do you think there's a propulsion in that tension between the two people? Like there's a fuel in there?
I do.
Kind of like a running partner who you're actually racing a little bit
Yeah,
as you go along?
again, the other artists that I cited earlier, they also would say that. I mean, Matisse and Picasso sparred intellectually all the time. And from that,
In
many
my
great.
mind, though, Picasso's better than Matisse, but we'll continue that.
Anyway, one of the reasons why apparently this was slashed, it could have actually been any number of reasons, but one of the
Got it.
theories that's bandied about is that Manet was horrified by the depiction of his wife's profile. Suzanne, I don't think it's wrong of me to mention that Suzanne bore Manet's son Leon. There was always some kind of dubiety about Leon's or
Parentage.
Manet's paternity,
Yeah.
because actually Suzanne had been Manet's secret mistress for about 10 years before they married. And they married because she was pregnant. But there was some suggestion she was the live-in piano teacher.
Sure.
Manet came from a very wealthy family. And actually they wondered if Leon was in actual fact fathered by
His
Edouard's father. Did you know this already? This is
this is all coming back to me as part of the labels. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh, did they must have done this in the exhibition, I
Yeah,
guess.
they talked about it in the exhibition. Yeah,
So
but yeah, go ahead.
no, just these kinds of anecdotes about people's lives. These are the things I find fascinating about art
Well,
history.
these are the. Life is not life in the past was no more clean than it is now. You know what I'm saying? And as far as like, if anything, it was far more tempestuous and crazy than we give it credit for.
Well, absolutely. I mean, also certainly not clean. Manet died of complications of syphilis. He had
Well,
tons
I
of
meant clean in like
extramarital
the
affairs.
clean in the moral sense rather than in the sanitary sense. Yeah,
But isn't it interesting about morality and friendship and in falling out in friendship, actually? I
yeah.
wonder how much of there was like a kind of no, not a, I don't know how to phrase it, but a morality to the eruption of anger. In that, I wonder if the other man was ever not just put out by their friend, but actually disgusted by their action for some reason or another.
I think later in their lives too, they really split and didn't talk for a while, as I recall reading. But like they were
No, I,
closer, and then they
I would
was it the
say
other
that
way around?
Degas, well, like Suzanne, Manet's wife,
Yeah.
was extremely, um, how can I put it, worshipful actually of Manet. And after Manet died, I need to be careful I don't conflate some part of art history with the wrong thing. But I think that actually Degas spent time gathering parts of a Manet painting that had
Yes.
been torn up
Yep.
and trying
They
to
had that there too.
reassemble it as a kind of
Uh,
almost ritualistic homage to this
sure.
great painter who had been his friend. Um, Falling out with somebody hurts when it's somebody you're very close to and you've known intimately, deeply.
Well,
I
I
don't think there
think
can.
when you're in the middle of a story and you don't know how it's going to end, things are more confusing.
Did you have a childhood best friend, Bill?
I did. and I'm friends with him still. In fact, I just made an album cover for him and his wife. So, but yeah, I mean, but there was many years where we didn't really speak, and I don't remember why. Just went different directions or come back together. I mean, that's the other thing about life. You could have a falling out, and then 15 years later, bump into each other, and neither of you remembers why it is you weren't speaking.
Does the fallout remain as a residue in the relationship always, though?
Yeah, but sometimes, but I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. It's like an accretion of experience, right? I mean, all relationships are a story, and stories can't be happy all the way through.
Hmm, I don't know. Maybe we have a kind of addiction to what we think of as happiness. Um, I thought I'd just put this here because actually Manet painted his wife at the piano, and some people say this painting was made to rectify what he felt Degas had done as a disservice to his wife's profile. The
You
other
know,
thing that some art historians have said is that actually maybe Manet and Suzanne had had a falling out, and that's why he slashed it through her.
yeah, I was gonna say I remember there being multiple potential explanations for the cutting.
But
Uh,
also the fun thing I think about art history is that you can research in one very narrow line, and you can think you're kind of onto something, and then you realize that there's some element that isn't corroborating properly, or there is no sense that, for example, a timeline doesn't quite work out or match with the narrative that's been spun around the story. And so I was thinking then about the title Fallout as being almost like the fallout of the narrative.
True.
What are we doing with the stories we're told by art? Are we blindly, faithfully sticking to stories without diverging or
Well, and
being
these are
curious?
stories from 150 years ago where, you know, obviously no one is still alive and there's not that great a record of these situations. I mean, it's all hearsay and a letter here and a fragment of a diary there. And, you know, we don't know what really was going on. We can only sort of guess. It's
Sure.
also weird, you look at the painting on the left and you think, now the backing is yellowed, thing like the way it was remounted, even the cut itself, which was a moment, has history accreted over the top of it. Just the like the painting has changed, the edge is worn, the backing it was put on like has a history, who owned it through all those years, and
Mm.
like all of that has all of this other things, when at the moment there was an immediacy to him, taking a pair of scissors or a knife to it.
Mm.
um why not destroy the whole thing? You know what I mean? It's just like it's really interesting.
Well, I also think about Manet. I think about how interesting actually the pose is in this painting. And Manet was known for posing his models in a sort of scandalous way. But actually, Degas himself was such a maverick. And much
That's
as
a
it
great
pains me
pose.
to say it, because he was such a nasty, misogynist prick, um, the fact is that this painting that he did is incredibly fresh, modern. It's captured something fleeting. Um, I
it,
mean,
it
within
feels it feels very real,
yeah,
him sitting there.
Degas is also someone who, as a kind of Western artist at this time, was really an early adopter of the camera as well. It's just important to mention. Although he wouldn't have been at this stage at this date using a camera. Um, but nonetheless, as a document of a moment, it's interesting because of the painting that Degas originally made. It's interesting, of course, then because of the intervention of the slash that Manet kind of committed upon it. And then it's also fascinating because it's a document of how this friendship created, as we've already said, a tension between them. And the thing I was just mentioning about art history being quite tricksy is that this painting is often cited as another part to the story of the fallout. But actually, if you
So
notice, painted by Manet in 1880, it was gifted to Degas. And in the kind of story, the kind of mythologized rather story about this painting, often it's reported that when Manet slashed this one, Degas returned this to Manet. But actually, it was returned to Manet by Degas when they fell out about something else later on, because that's how they were.
take that stupid painting of the plums you sent me.
I know. Screw your prunes.
Yeah,
Sounds
exactly.
rude, but they were just volatile in their
Yeah.
relationship, and in terms of a fallout and falling out again, I can't help but think that these two artists would always have been artists. They each had technical skill that was brilliant. They each had a kind of craving for innovation in their painting that was kind of pioneering and maverick, but
Yep.
also fitted within the kind of wider sensibility of the time in which they live and the place in which they lived. But still, I can't help think that Manet and Degas are probably the best frenemies of early modern Western painting.
There's that time period, the sort of mid 19th century to 1880s, before Impressionism really like took over. Um, there's something about the style and the colors and the like that era I just have fallen in love with over the years.
Mm.
Um, because I think you're right. There is a modernity to it. It's not as stuffy as things that came before it, but it's not yet. It's still pictorial in like a way. It's I don't know. It's representative in a way. Um,
But we are looking, when we look at these paintings, it's interesting you use a word like stuffy, because what we're looking at really is the cusp of modernism, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
But I think we have to check ourselves, Bill. You and I now are actually quite old,
Yes,
and
we are.
our language around image is different to people who are 20, 30 years younger than us, who are themselves accessing images and are part of the wider image language of the
Yeah,
world.
it's true,
And
Diva. Low key.
I think these paintings are fantastic as an archive that we learn from. The
Yeah.
stories behind them are the thing that bring life to them more than the painting themselves sometimes.
Yep.
Um, and particularly, I think, as we move forward into the next phase of the 21st century, we become more distant from these lives.
Sure.
It's amazing to think that there's still an expectation that we're going to understand that to return the painting of plums is truly massive. That to slash the painting through your wife's face that your friend has given you is a truly violent act of, divorce beyond compare. And yet still they were in each other's orbit. And as we've already said, after Manet's death, Degas was, for such a private and secretive man, was devastated in a way that meant he painstakingly tried to collect and reassemble a painting that had been
Yeah.
cut up.
Yeah, I think I'm 99% sure that was also at the end of the show. The one he's trying to put back together. That show was extraordinary. Anybody who saw the Manet Degas show at the Met, I think it was also at D'Orsay. I don't know where it was,
Yeah,
wherever it
Missy
was in
Dorset would
Europe.
probably have had it there.
It was just unbelievably great.
I think I can't remember which one it is. One of the I think that it painting, is it that painting that's in the municipal gallery in Fukuoka in Japan, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think
Wait, where's the cut mark?
I think the painting of Suzanne by Manet, which is the one, this one, sorry, it's such a poor quality one. I think this is in the Musée d'Orsay normally,
Okay.
but I don't know where the other one is.
Yeah, the cut one. I have the book from the show. I'll pull it out when we're done and look it up.
Anyway, Bill, when we fall out with friends, I suspect we should always endeavour to make up. Because if
Are
once
you?
they were friends, usually it means they were worth our while, doesn't it?
I totally agree with that, and I take that all the way into romantic relationships. It's like if you like them enough to be in a relationship with them for any period of time, they probably were somebody you would want to have in your life in some respect. But that's just me.
Maybe that is just you. I think that would be too radical for
I'm gonna send you a print of
many
my
of them.
photograph, and you're gonna cut it apart, and you're gonna send it back to me.
Sure.
Hmm.
Otherwise, Bill,
Yes,
let's not fall out.
I don't think we should, but we should talk about Matt Dillon next time.
Okay. Bye,
Okay.
Bill.
Bye, Sandy.